Now, the reason why I say Dx12 is better than Dx11 is because recently I've been doing some research and I just realized that this should be correct and accurate, but it seems like NVIDIA, with their GPU drivers, they modified the draw calls in DX11 games to make those draw calls multi-threaded. Thus, AMD cannot do that. Well, not they cannot, they just don't. They don't modify those draw calls in their DX11 games, leaving those draw calls single threaded. That's why in Fortnite with AMD cards, notoriously, uh, well, performance mode and DX11, I think many people still don't understand. They are the same API. They use DirectX 11. Performance mode is just a revised version of DX11 with cutting out most of the animations. So, in theory, performance mode should give you the most FPS in Fortnite. But with an AMD GPU that doesn't modify those draw calls to be multi-threaded, you're left with single-threaded performance. Therefore, leaving your CPU to be doing a lot of work, and your GPU is basically asleep. That is why DirectX 12 works so well on AMD cards, because the draw calls are multi-threaded and there's a very nice distribution of work between your components. So your cores can all get some work done, and then so can your GPU. So DirectX 12, actually, I feel like for competitive players should be the way to go. If you have an AMD card, if you have a NVIDIA card, give this a try too, because I've watched some benchmarking videos like with the 4060s, and I know it's not a good card, but with the 4060 you should be getting like I don't know, easily 500 FPS with no issue on performance mode, but they're getting like 100 to 200 max. So I would say NVIDIA owners, if you are noticing some inconsistent FPS numbers, give DX12 a try. DX12 is also really well known for giving way higher 1% lows and way lot higher 1% highs, or maximums or minimums. You know what I mean. You know what I mean. So the frame rate's going to be a lot more consistent on DX12, although you might not get as much FPS as you could have gotten. Like as much, I mean, like you won't be able to hit that maximum as say performance mode in creative. You know, you're never gonna need 700 frames in a real game. You know, so you just need consistent frames. That's probably the thing that competitive players care most about, because the worst thing that can happen is that your frames drop to 80 in endgame. So although right now I wouldn't say DX, like if you have a NVIDIA GPU, if you still notice like you're getting way higher average FPS, stick to performance mode because you're on a NVIDIA card. Your drivers allow you to modify draw calls to be multi-threaded, so you guys are pretty chilling. But for AMD users, I think DX12 is the way to go. And to refresh our memories on how to get mobile builds, you have to turn everything on off, and then view distance now scales with foliage. So changing grass via the game files doesn't work anymore. So you need to keep everything on low. Uh, for those wondering why my FPS is on 60, I play on 237 frames per second. It's just modified, that's why it says 60. And in my experience so far with my system, I have had very little frame drops. Maybe like when it's end game in a cash cow, but you know, my FPS is very consistent, and also it's with Windows 11 game mode. So make sure you enable game mode in Windows 11, not 10, Windows 11.